مرحبا من جديد ببودكاست تحويلة. معكم رزان الخطيب. كل حلقة بستضيف صديق أو صديقة لياخدونا معهم مشوار ويحكوا لنا عن تحويلات صغيرة وكبيرة عملوها بحياتهم.
إنه يا ريتني رديت عليه ورحت. هو كان شايف إشي أنا مش شايفته. إنه he could see I was passionate about dance, like when I couldn't connect the things, like, do you know what I mean? When I was given the chance to make something, I made a dance space. But I'd never considered, okay, so maybe I should do dance.
تعرفت على شيرين بورشة كنت بعملها عن التسويق الرقمي. بعد الورشة اكتشفنا إنه عنا صديقات مشتركات بعالم الفن. أكتر شي بيعجبني بشيرين هو إصرارها تقدر تحصل على مردود مالي وتضل مركزة على رسالتها الفنية وشغفها بالرقص. خلونا نسمع منها عن مشوارها.
So I drop my son off to nursery, and then I go and I have a bit of nuts, like some basic like proteins or some fat. And then I sit with my body for like about 2 hours, sometimes more. And I roll on a soft ball. It's been my routine like a bit for the last few weeks. I wonder why I haven't done it before, to be honest, because it feels really like so much better than like doing traditional training that used to really stress me out, like traditional dance training. And then after that, I'm really connected to myself. أحس حالي هيك بجسمي. I'm in my body and I can do anything. So either after that, I go pick my son up, bring him back, and then I go into the studio and I do work. Or certain days of the week, I'm teaching in the evenings. I teach kids and then adults as well.
So إذا بدنا نقول شو أنتي بتعملي هلا, you're a dancer?
I would say I'm a dance maker because I choreograph dances. At the moment, I'm also exploring performing, or I teach. Those are the three things like I do. Performance-wise, I'm mainly into improvisation, and then I create like dance works that are like set already. I teach kids or adults.
Okay, حلو كتير. هلا I want you to take us بدي نروح قبل 20 سنة وتحكي لي شو كنت عم تعملي قبل 20 سنة.
يعني specifically إيش إحنا هلا 2022.
Yes.
كانت 2002. كانت سنة تخرجت فيها
من مدرسة.
مش عارفة إذا السنة تخرجت فيها ولا السنة اللي بعد تخرجت فيها, بس I just graduated architecture from part 1 يعني, which is like a BSc لسه ما خلصت يعني. واشتغلت بلندن a few months. It was really hard to find a job at the time عشان كان في recession. تغلبت كتير by chance لقيت a job. And I was in East London. I was working in East London for this guy called William Russell. It was in Brick Lane. It was actually really cool. عشان كل سنة اشتغلت فيها وأنا عم بدرس هندسة. كانت أول مرة إلي هيك عم بعيش بلندن, الجد لندن. Then I was dating Matt at the time. We just met each other. He's a Londoner كمان هو. It was really cool إنه أتعرف على حدا من لندن وجد إنه هو من لندن. It's, you know, at the time it was really cosmopolitan, like lots of people from everywhere, and لسه that area wasn't gentrified, so you could really feel that. وأختي كانت وقتها, I think أختي لساتها كانت بسواس عم تدرس. حتى سواس وقتها was a really like proper leftist university. As an experience living there was لسه ما كنت عاملة part 2, so I wasn't yet like, I hadn't done my postgraduate degree in architecture. I was still I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just هيك كنت شوي إنه even at the time I didn't really know what I was doing.
طب I want to go بدي أرجع لورا كمان نتفة. ليه نقيتي architecture أصلاً؟
It's a mix of stuff. I was good at art and I was good at physics and math. My dad had a bit to do with it as well because he was really interested in architecture. All my siblings except for one ended up starting in architecture and then doing other things. Maybe it's a little bit that he was very interested in the subject with the fact that the combination of art, physics and math naturally made me do that. It was, I don't know, at the time I don't feel it was like a conscious decision. It just felt like from the very narrow إنه subjects اللي أهلك معقول يسمحوا لك تعمليها. كان بدي أعمل art صراحة بس my parents were not that supportive. So I think out of all of the options it was
مهنة كان بدهم مهنة profession.
out of all of them it was the most creative one بالضبط كان بدهم
most
مهنة.
creative one. Okay.
ما رح يبعتوكي برا عشان تدرسي إشي
artistic or music or dance.
Dance was not, I didn't even consider it. I wasn't dancing at the time.
ما كان.
لا ما كنت أرقص كنت ألعب piano.
Okay, interesting.
Dance was not even like on the radar. It was not on the radar. I had the weirdest thing happen to me my last year. عشان when that year when I graduated, the project I'd done, we had our tutor كان معطينا a lot of freedom. وصفيت عاملة like a kind of club, like with like a pneumatic structure, which is like a blow-up structure, and it was like a rave club. كنت داخل كتير إنه rave culture و 1968 Paris لما كان صاير revolutions. فمشروعي كان عن الرقص، بس رقص in a club kind of رقص، عشان كتير كنت أحب أرقص، كنت أروح clubs وأرقص ما حد يحكي معاي. فالأستاذ قال لي I see a lot of passion here, but it's not in architecture. And then he told me, he gave me the advice to go check out this 5 rhythms class that was happening in Bristol. أنا كنت عم بدرس بباث University. And I tell my friends to this day, who كان اسمه Toby, I didn't actually go. I remember when he said that, I actually cried. I wasn't ready to accept, it wasn't the vocation for me. Because it's such hard work. Like you work till 2 a.m. مرات, all night to, to consider it's not a vocation for me was like I wasn't ready. بس بعد ما صار اللي صار بحياتي بضلني أتذكر هاي الانسيدنت اللي صارت وبقول يا ريتني رحت.
بداية التحويلة تبعتك.
إنه يا ريتني رديت عليه ورحت. هو كان شايف إشي أنا مش شايفته. إنه he could see I was passionate about dance. Like when I couldn't connect the things. Like, do you know what I mean? When I was given the chance to make something, I made a dance space. But I'd never considered, okay, so maybe I should do dance. And then in the end, we had this little project and I ended up making like a blow up like dress. So it was very performative. So I think instinctively my body was always involved in the way I explored ideas.
حتى بالarchitecture.
Yes, حتى بالarchitecture إنه طريقتي إذا حدا أعطاني الفريدم أعمل إيش ما بدي وما قال لي لازم تعملي عمارة بس تعمل جسمي.
Okay. So بعد ما خلصتي الديجري تبعتك شو عملتي؟ ضليتي بلندن ولا رجعتي عمان؟
وقتها دورت على شغل وكان في ريسيشن وإيفنشلي لقيت شغل عند هذا ويليام راسل. قعدت سنة وبعدها رجعت على عمان a few months كمان. اشتغلت عند سهل الحياري كان حلو كتير وقتها كان مكتبه بخلدة وبعدين رحت درست رجعت عملت إنه البوست جراديويت اللي بيسموه بارت 2 بالاركتكتشر
شو بارت
بس مش عارفة if I should caveat I'm gonna just say it you don't have to put it if you want بس the plan was to go back أرجع أدرس part 2 بإنجلند بس كنت وقتها أنا متعرفة علامات ومصاحبين فقررت أقول لأهلي إنه إحنا مع بعض فأبوي منعني أرجع الجامعة. It was trauma. كان my salary 250 دينار. my degree كان عندي part 1 اللي هي ال BSc تبعك أو ال BA بس ما كان بقدر أدخل نقابة I wasn't a professional.
لازم
you have to do part 1 and 2. هون بالجامعة بيكون 5 years. فأنا عملت الequivalent تبع بس أول 3 سنين.
Okay.
وبدي أرجع أعمل كمان 2 سنين عشان وبعدين بعدها أعمل امتحان عشان أقدر أدخل نقابة أو at least to be registered in the UK. I'd only done the first part from 3 parts.
Okay.
After I told him, they told me I can't go back to study there for this reason. فلقيت طريقة لقيت جامعة كان كتير إنه late. I think it was June وقتها or even July. والسمستر بيبلش بسبتمبر. فلقيت جامعة ببرشلونة كان اسمها كان عندهم a master's degree ب cooperation architecture or something like that, and I applied and I got in. وبعدين قلت لأهلي إنه خلص تركنا إنامات وبدي أروح يعني صار يعني my you know like it's like my career and I was willing to do whatever it took to continue and يعني for me it was my right, you know.
أكيد.
So and then I ended up in Barcelona for a year and then I persuaded the university بإنجلند يدخلوني straight into the second year London Metropolitan, where I studied with a tutor who's a really good friend of mine now. He was a photographer. اسمه David Grandoch. Yeah, Barcelona was crazy. It was like freedom هيك. أنا جاي من إنه restriction وأهلي وكل هالقصص اللي صارت و suddenly بلاقي حالي بهيك مدينة زي
مدينة والدة.
أنا أفخم مدينة بالعالم. بس because of the stress of what happened, I'd never thought I would be in that kind of position where I would be put in a position where my career would be compromised or my education because of dating someone that they didn't approve of because يعني هلا things changed for people يعني the next generation, but at the time it wasn't so acceptable for a female to لأنه هو مسيحي كمان وتعرف كل هالقصص. مش عارفة عم بحكي بهيك موضوع بس it's a big part of my life, you know.
عم نطلع بالبودكاست عم نطلع كل حياتك وتحويلاتك ف everything is relevant.
So
if you think it's relevant,
he was a secret for a really long time, for about 10 years until I qualified, you know. From
qualified
when I was 21 as an architect, which means you do your exams, you do a case study and you تقدري وقتها تاخدي إنه تدخلي النقابة equivalent هناك. That takes a few years work. In England it takes about like 10 years to be qualified as an architect.
وبعد برشلونة رجعتي قلتي على لندن على انجلند وكملتي
عملت آخر سنة تبع part 2 مع a tutor of mine. وبعدين دوري بعدها كان بسهولة لقيت شغل. Actually I ended up getting like job offers from all the really amazing practices, and my dad really wanted Norman Foster, so I got the job offer, but I ended up getting like job offers from 4 other places, and I ended up like working for a practice اسمهم Eliza and Morrison, and then I switched 6 practices in about 2 years.
6 practices as in 6 jobs?
Yeah, maybe. I moved a lot.
Okay.
I had one practice and I was really aiming for اللي هو عند Roger Sturken Harbor, Richard Rogers. الله يرحمه هلا توفى. But that was my dream. And then I made it. I eventually made it there. I don't know how I ended up like in the last couple of years. I got the job there. I was like, oh my God, إنه كان أفخم مكتب.
Dream job?
It was a dream job, yeah. It was a dream job صراحة. Because هي socialist شخصيته وكتير he's so down to earth. كان يقعد وراي. He's a law إن بيسموه Sir Richard. he insisted everyone call him Richard. And he just knew everyone's name. ومثلا الكافتيريا عنا بالمكتب كانت الشيف تبعت الكافتيريا هي عشان إنه across from our office كان في the River Cafe, which was his wife's restaurant, a very well-known restaurant in London. And so the ex-chef there was our chef in the office. We used to buy these like plexiglass coins. They're like 3.5 pounds each. And then you get like really amazing like proper lunch every day. In the meetings, everyone was always involved. You were always expected to contribute. Design was really important. Like if the design of a project was not strong, like it didn't go forward, which is very different from a lot of the other more commercial practices I worked in, where it didn't really matter so much. ما كان فيها هالقد emphasis.
يعني إذا الكلاينت بيقول أوكي خلاص.
يعني هون مهم كان له وكان هو يجي يقعد بالميتينجز وإنه we'd work a long time to make sure it works and the ideas that his own values are integrated in the projects, even though the practice was quite big. It was a really inspiring place. فكنت بحس the point إني غيرت إيش عم بعمل is influenced by a lot of things. One is I started going to a martial arts gym. بلشت أعمل موي تاي. وأنا ما كنت ما إلي على الفنون القتالية، ما إلي على المارشال آرتس يعني بالمرة، بس إشي هيك إشي فلت فيه وأنا هناك.
شو خلاكي جا بالك تعمليه؟
I got bored doing like volleyball. I got bored, so I wanted to be active. I wasn't doing anything else, so I just started. And the gym was really cool. It was in East London, Kaman, Brick Lane. The guys who ran it were really cool. واحد إسبانيولي اسمه Abel, like a Spanish Londoner, and Luis, this like Brazilian guy from Sao Paulo. And their energy was really cool. فكنت دائما صرت أروح كل يوم على الجيم basically. صار addiction يعني. It was just somewhere where they were so welcoming and open. And then the day I started sparring, he was like, initially I was doing like normal like pad work, بس بعدين مرة أو مرتين رحت أعمل sparring when you have a proper fight. And that was like هيك انضربت على وجهي مرتين. صرت أبكي بس نفس الوقت إشي فتح. Like I felt so alive, and I think it was inspiring. You improvise a lot. You know, you have to really think on your feet, and you're not like doing steps. You're just moving and reacting and in a way living. And I think naturally ما بعرف إذا عشان أمي شركسية generally الشركس إنه they're fighters, or I don't know, because my cousins a lot of them do martial arts. A lot of them are like movers. I feel like maybe it's something
genes.
Maybe, to be honest. I'll be honest, because it was something, and I was good at it as well. I was good. It came, and it's so weird, someone like me that was natural. If you knew me before, like I wasn't someone who was a fighter. بعدها بلشت أعمل جوجيتسو، صرت أدخل competitions وصرت أفوز. يعني كان كتير غريب إنه كان عم بيصير فيه هيك I'd never thought about doing it, and I didn't know that about myself. But to be in that kind of environment where also the energy there was cool and they were super open as people. And in jiu-jitsu, you really improvise a lot. Yani, you do steps in the beginning, they teach you things, but when you do sparring or you roll, it's all about like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You have to like think on your feet the whole time. From the beginning, I just loved solving problems with my body and thinking on the spot with it. This was something I discovered.
Can we بس نوقف هون شوي. Solving problems with your body.
Yeah.
Can you expand?
Kinesthetic intelligence يعني. It's like using your body to explore ideas or solve problems.
Okay.
In jiu-jitsu, you really have to do that. Yani you really like, it's not like you know a few steps and you execute them. You know a few steps, you're lucky if you execute them. Half the time you don't know what the hell you're doing and you have to just like do stuff. And then we were rolling with a lot of like really, they were Brazilians وكان وقتها إنه in a big معروف التيم وكان يجوا كل world champions. You rolled, it was such an incredible experience that you were rolling with like 8-time world champions who came and they treated everyone the same, you know? But then it's really weird because I don't know if it's Brazilians or the energy they have, but it's like 5 minutes and there's so much flow. It was like dancing, especially with those like black belts who were champions. عشان they don't put a lot of pressure. It really is about like feeling and flowing. هاد بعدين كان صاير الربيع العربي وأهلي وقتها فتحت قصة مات أنا وياه إنه خلص قبلوا إنه for us to be together. It had been a few years. Somehow all of this freedom came into my life in a way where like it just made me feel like, you know what the word is maybe? It just made me feel like there were so much possibilities and they're in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
حسيت حالك empowered؟
حسيت حالي empowered. حسيت حالي أولاً معك وعمري توقعت إنه تسلك الأمور معي ومع مات وأهلي إنهم eventually يقبلوا عشان يجدع الندت وتنحت بالأخير وقبلوا. I think maybe it demonstrated to me that if I put my mind to something that maybe I can make things that I imagined were impossible, maybe they could happen.
So هلأ أخذتي كنت عم تشتغلي بالاركتكتشر فيرم واخذتي martial arts وعم تلعبي ب tournaments and all of that, and then what was the moment that
so one thing that happened is before I got the job at Rogers and Sir Richard or Rogers Stirk and Harbour, I'd worked a lot of crap jobs in practices that were not design oriented, so it was really disheartening and demoralizing. Like, you know, I was like drawing toilets or like counting parking lots. I was working on a hospital design, which is not for someone like me, yani, who ended up dancing, you know. So I took a break. I had enough income to like take a break a few months. So I took a few months break and I started like exploring making things. And so my cousin had just got married and I had a camera and I documented. حطيت الكاميرا بعرسها لما اجوا أخدوها العريس. هاي عيلتي الشركسية. فالفوتج I reversed it كله وحطيت a kind of like chant. كانت شركسية the chant, and it looked like they were all dancing in the video. It's like about I don't know, I think it was this, and I fast forwarded it. So I'd made that, and then I made like I was filming us and whenever we were cooking in the kitchen, because with my flatmates كنا نطبخ كتير. فكنت صرت أصور these very like from the same angle all of the times we were spending like cooking, and then I cut that into like a short film. When I decided to quit architecture and apply to the Laban, which is a university, a conservatoire, كان عندهم 1 year إنه anyone broadly interested in dance إنه to apply.
Okay, هون قبل كيف طلعت فكرة الدانس؟
اسمعي، كان يعني كنت أسأل حالي، كان عندنا واحد معنا بالتيم تبعي he was really talented ومات my husband Matthew. ما أحكي مات عشان زي كأنه عم بحكي زداد. شت خليني أعيد. Okay, كان عندنا واحد بالمكتب معانا he was really talented, you know, naturally talented and very passionate about what he does. He was willing to wake up at 6 a.m. to do what he's doing, you know, to do architecture. My now husband, اللي كان وقتها إنه my fiance, let's say Matthew, is also really passionate. He's really a maker, يعني بيشتغل بإيديه و he's very passionate about architecture. I was not willing to wake up at 6 a.m. to think about objects. You know what I mean? I'm not that interested in objects. I don't like objects. And I don't know how someone like me it doesn't come naturally to me. I don't like objects. I'm actually more into ephemeral things.
Okay.
It was a big thing to watch him. He sat across from me and see how committed and how focused he was. And actually my energy was not there. Just like that tutor said, it was not there. ما كان عندي الانرجي أقعد. كنت عايفة حالي أنا بالمكتب. كنت أتخيل حالي دايما عم بسحل عن الكرسي. That was the feeling I had, just sliding off the chair, which is not a good feeling you want to have being somewhere, you know? That's how I'd best describe it. That was one of the reasons. I think I remember sitting across the table. We were at dinner, and I was Matthew, and I was like, you know, I don't know how I said it, but it's like I don't want to be an architect. It's not what I want to do. At the time I hadn't decided, but the energy I was feeling when I was going to the dojo was so big. It was so in contrast to being in the office. You know, I thought about it all the time. Like it consumed me. Around this time, we started going to see some dance works. We went to see Michael Clark perform Be the Barbican. I watched a film about Merce Cunningham that artist Isma Tasadadin had made. You know, I was very interested in art in general and culture, you know. When I started to see that dance was actually not just like commercial dance, it was an artistic practice, at least contemporary dance. And I started to see some contemporary dance works. I thought to myself, like, design-wise, I could do that. You know, I could make it didn't seem hard
You
to
can
me.
design a dance.
Yeah, it didn't seem. I was like, I could do that, you know. I could make that. It didn't seem hard. The only issue was I didn't know how to like dance, but I just thought to myself it would be cool to learn and try and make something like that and see if I could make something like that, you know. I did some research and I found this year course بلبنان which was relatively open. يعني إذا أنت ما كان عندك experience in dance, if you wanted to do something related to dance, admin or like scenography حتى, you could apply for this course. And so I submitted my movie for my cousin's wedding because I didn't have any dance videos referencing my dancing. I just had this film and a personal statement talking about my values, I suppose, and the films I saw and why I want to dance. And I got in. And later on, I think I was very lucky with the woman who was doing the admissions, because I'd met her after, and she ended up being quite an inspirational figure in the year that I'd studied at the Laban. She was like a unique person. She told me she watched the film twice. I'm very happy like she understood it and she saw the potential, because I ended up doing quite, I've turned it into a career. So it was a good thing, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah. لما رجعت على عمان مش زي وأنا بلندن إنه في infrastructure for the arts funding يعني the kind of funding you have is foreign funds أكثرية الوقت it's just not ما في infrastructure خلينا نقول for the performing arts, specifically dance. I really had to reinvent the way I was operating. I couldn't operate like a traditional performing arts practice would in
a European country.
In the Arab world, it's really different. You're either reliant on foreign funds or like sponsorship from like corporations, but your work ends up extremely compromised. For me, I made the decision that I need to find a way to earn a living. كمان يعني this was really really hard to earn a living doing what I do, instead of like juggling it with something else. And I didn't want to sit on a desk. So architecture كمان, you can't really do it part-time. It doesn't work in the same way. I established Contemporary Amman, which after years I established it, having done some courses مع وثبة, which is where I met you, training in business development. I'd already been teaching, but to establish it as a kind of platform for training and performance for youth to have access to dance and movement training, to empower them to share their stories. But do this in a way where I also made a living and maybe fund what I do as well, hopefully. يعني had هو الهدف for Contemporary Amman.
So when you look back at as you're telling me the jumps you've made, or the detour, it's the big detour from architecture. So while studying, you left architecture, you resigned?
Yeah, well, I got in, and then I had a year before I would start studying. So I got married that year, and I saved up to pay for the course, يعني.
And you stayed working.
But then it's really funny. My dad didn't know I was studying. We told him that he would call me. I'd be like, I'm still at work. كان وقتها شو إنه رقص. ما كان قابل. No way. مع إنه هو ما كان. He wasn't funding it. But the idea of having been a professional architect to move to do something like that, it was too much يعني.
Too much. So كنتي لسه بالشغل لما قلتي.
I moved to like a more temporary إنه كنت بيسموه إنه by month كان عندي contract month by month.
Month by month. بنفس
No, somewhere else.
Okay.
In another practice.
And you saved up to go to that school.
Yes.
But you knew you got in.
Oh, actually, no, I was still there. I stayed there and I worked and I knew I got in, and I worked a few months, and then I earned enough to pay for the school.
And then you went.
And I quit and I went, yeah.
So after that school, what did you do?
It was tough. There was a lot I hadn't like planned for. أولاً إنه يعني if you're an architect and you find a job, your salary is quite solid, you know, you have like a good. وبعدين it's all institutional. إنه بتروحي من الجامعة، إنه بتروحي على a practice, you get a salary. Dance is completely different. يعني it requires hustling. In street smarts, which I did not have at all. صراحة يعني it was like a big life lesson. It's taken me a while to.
ولما كنت بدك when you wanted to make that يعني اشتغلت شوي وخلص you focused your energy on going to that school.
Yes.
اوكي كنت عم تفكري شو بدك تعملي بعدين؟
لا كنت إنه
consumed by
rabbit in headlights كنت يعني وقتها.
بس بدك تروحي تعملي
بس كل حد كان عمره 18. انت فاهم الفرق؟ انا كان عمري 30 هن كان عمرهم كلهم 18 وبرقص من عمرهم 4 سنين 5 سنين. هيك الوضع أوكي. يعني كنت تاسة بالأول. يعني it was really humiliating and very hard. And it was like the most challenging one of the most challenging years of my life, but the most inspirational as well. Because I woke up at 6 and I worked my ass off. You know? I was like that guy, يعني.
Okay. So you went in. So اشتغلت شوي. You saved up some money, and then you went to the school. Shocked ناس people younger than you.
The training,
you had a. Did you have at any point you thought what I'm gonna do after the school is done?
No.
You didn't cross.
I mean, I vaguely thought like I kind of while I was there, I thought all I wanted to do was make dance works. So I would do whatever it takes. That's the difference. When you're passionate about what you do, you just want to do it. You know, you'll do whatever it takes to do it. So I wasn't thinking about later. I was just focused on doing it. Now. And had I stayed in the UK, I would have gone with the structure, which is apply for arts funding. And we'd already started. I started working with a group of girls and we started a collective. In some ways, because I was an architect and because I approached what I did as design, in terms of choreography, it was really easy. It actually was really easy. It's just learning how to move and develop a movement language, which was the difficult part.
But it's connected to the designer in you that was taught on how to design buildings and
yes. So I still think of myself as
a
designer for sure. Then even the way I approach things, I approach it the way I used to approach making buildings. You think about the city. I think about the relationship of my body to the environment. And whatever I make is an outcome of that. It's in a way a little bit similar. Okay, that's like it has a lot of other stuff, but in terms of conceptually, I still think nothing changed in the way that I approach the way I make things, except I really wanted to make.
So that teaching at the end of the day
was
helped
a lot. And I actually ended up, and I still do. I work with a lot of architects.
So at the end of the day, you are a designer.
Yes, 100%. No question.
Your first degree was designing buildings and environments.
Yes.
And then your second degree was about moving and designing movement.
Designing environments. It's still designing environments. I think of a performance as an immersive environment.
Yes.
That hasn't changed. بس الفرق كمان هلا إنه اللايتنج والساوند بتبطلي خايفة إنك تتعلمي البروجرامز إنك تعملي كل هدول الشغلات. That's the difference, because you're so used to learning programs and doing things that learning something new doesn't scare you. That's what architecture kind of gave me, هلا لما رجعت على عمان مش زي وأنا بلندن إنه في infrastructure for the arts و funding يعني the kind of funding you have is foreign funds أكثرية الوقت it's just not ما في infrastructure خلينا نقول for the performing arts, specifically dance. I really had to reinvent the way I was operating. I couldn't operate like a traditional performing arts practice would in
a European country.
In the Arab world, it's really different. You're either reliant on foreign funds or like sponsorship from like corporations, but your work ends up extremely compromised. For me, I made the decision that I need to find a way to earn a living. كمان يعني this was really really hard to earn a living doing what I do instead of like juggling it with something else. And I didn't want to sit on a desk. So architecture, or then architecture كمان, you can't really do it part-time. It doesn't work in the same way. So I established Contemporary Amman, which after years I established it, having done some courses مع وثبة, which is where I met you, training in business development. I'd already been teaching, but to establish it as a kind of platform for training and performance for youth to have access to dance and movement training, to empower them to share their stories. But do this in a way where I also made a living and maybe fund what I do as well, hopefully. يعني had هو الهدف for Contemporary Amman.
Now today your passion is dance and movement and choreography. Would you have taken a different path to get where you are today, or you're happy with the path?
Of course. I would have danced earlier had I known. I'll be honest. يعني I would have probably done ballet.
Ballet.
Yeah, I would have done ballet. It would have been nice to explore my body and what it could do from a younger age. That's what يعني I would do different. It would have been interesting to see.
But you didn't see it.
I mean, now it's forced me to kind of find ways to move that feel much more like connected to how I naturally move. And I don't know whether I would have ended up doing that had I danced from an early age. So I can't, it's hard to answer that question, you know what I mean? Because maybe then I would have taken a more traditional approach and I wouldn't have studied architecture, and so I wouldn't have approached what I was doing in the same way.
شكراً لاستماعكم لحلقة جديدة من بودكاست تحويلة.